Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts dancing all night long on the golf course.
It's your boy John.
And your boy CC. And when there's too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready to party? I sure hope so. John seems to be. Because he today will reach back in time to pull a legendary war tactician into modern-day Tokyo to help an upcoming EDM performer kickstart her career in Ya Boy Kongming. But before that, I will load my patented sports anime bullet into my wacky anime gun and take a quick detour through the world of underground golfing with Birdie. So grab your 48-inch driver, get your asses on the goddamn dance floor, and don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. Infamous among those who gamble on golf games, Eve uses her exceptional skill in the sport to earn a living by betting and winning against various opponents. Known as the Rainbow Bullet, she vows to beat her foes and conquer the world of underground golf using only 3 clubs. However, the universe where Eve knows no defeat is shaken after she plays a clean game with Aoi Amawashi, a golfing prodigy that came to the country of Nafrese to enter a golf tournament. Armed with talent and born into the perfect environment for golf, Aoi, the innocent tyrant, calmly crushes her enemies with a bright smile on her face. After their game-changing match, Eve and Aoi become intrigued with each other and promise to battle again someday. As Eve's aggressive and risk-taking approach challenges the elite and steady playstyle of Aoi, the two geniuses may just manage to bring golf to unexpected heights. So, Birdie Wing, Golf Girl's Story, is an original anime that currently counts 13 episodes and was produced by Bandai Namco Pictures. You probably mostly know Bandai Namco as a game company, but their animation studio has been around since 2015 and has worked on stuff like Gintama, the Aikatsu and Battle Spirit series, the second season of Tiger and Bunny, and a bunch of other stuff. Birdie Wing was directed by Takayuki Inagaki, a name that might ring a bell if you've listened to our show for a while, as he also directed Chio's School Road, which we reviewed and liked a lot. But also a bunch of other things. The series composition, and I assume most of the writing, I'm not sure about that, was done by Yosuke Kuroda, who should be very familiar to you, John, because he did the series composition and scripts on pretty much all of the Gundam Build series. He also so far adapted all of My Hero Academia from the manga to the small screen and worked on Tenchi Muyo and many other things. The music, which is pretty damn great, was done by Hironori Anazawa, who worked on this and before that on the soundtrack for the anime version of Scarlet Nexus. And the other person in the soundtrack ring is Kotaro Nakagawa, who composed the music for Code Geass, Scryed, hell yeah, Hayate the Combat Butler, Gunsword, a bunch of other series, and in the current season, his music can be heard on Futo PI, the anime sequel to Kamen Rider Double, so I will probably bring him up again on the show in the not-too-distant future. So yeah, John, we talked about the show briefly in our sneak peek, and I was like, it's over, I'm an old man, because I'm watching a golf anime. And, I like my sports anime, that's no secret. I've reviewed several of those during the course of the show. I mean, one or two we have reviewed together, at least Keijo we reviewed together. But aside from that, that's mostly more my genre than yours. So
I mean, I'm not opposed to sports anime. It's just there's not much that I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch this. Like the last one I got super into, 100 years ago was probably Eye Shield 21.
Yes, we talked about that. The other thing we also reviewed was the beach volleyball anime.
Harukana Receive.
Harukana Receive, right. We also like that. So, sports anime have been around on this show several times, mostly brought up by me. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. So, what I haven't tackled yet, though, in terms of actual kind of sport, is golf. Why? Because I don't give a shit about golf. I I don't care about that stuff in real life at all. It's like the most boring thing to me. It might have some great technical and strategical aspects to it and everything, but for me, it's just a very too slow, too methodical. You're taking turns. It's not a direct competition, which I prefer, like, I don't know, football or boxing or something, mano a mano stuff. But this is someone swings the club and then hits the ball and it flies, and then the next one does it, and whoever does it with the fewest amount of hits and everything, I guess that's how it works, wins the race, whatever.
You mean a higher score isn't better?
I guess not. I played putting or mini golf. I don't know whatever it's called over on your side. Here it's mini golf.
I mean, from playing mini golf and from watching people play golf with your friends, seeing that stroke count go higher and higher, it's like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So there's that. So what does this series do that got me interested in watching it? First of all, I always give anime the benefit of the doubt when it comes to adapting sports into this medium, because usually they bring a little thing of extra into it, where it's like, oh, this makes it interesting, be it interesting characters or, visual style. And then there are the more out there versions where we have super attacks and crazy shonen antics and all that stuff. It's basically a battle show, only in the respective sport. Birdie Wing kinda does the same thing initially. Partially anyway. So the setup is Eve is our main character. She lives in this town or country. I don't know what it is. Nafrase or Nafrase. I don't even know how it's pronounced. But yeah, she lives there with her kind of adopted family. She is an orphan, apparently. She doesn't remember her past. She doesn't remember her childhood. I assume that will be brought up again later in the show. So far, it hasn't really been elaborated on. But we can make some assumptions there due to several reasons. But yeah, she was picked up as a kid after an accident by a bar owner, and her also already adopted, I don't know, daughter or something, Lily. And the bar owner's name is Klein. And they also have 3 other orphan children, refugee children that they take care of. And of course, they're there illegally, I think, at least the kids are, and they don't have a work permit or something like that. So it's hard to come by money. So what is the solution to that? Eve is the solution. She plays underground golf, and that means she is playing golf games and basically betting on herself and playing against whoever is willing to, against money. Mostly, I don't know, not necessarily gangsters, sometimes just random rich people or shit like that, who are overconfident. But, it's crime adjacent. And that's how it's painted in the show. It's like always dark in a way. And, it's it's played at nighttime. So that's how underground.
Play golf at night.
Yeah. Well, there are lights everywhere in the city, so it works. But it's not on official courts and everything. Like, it's in backyards with like these weird layouts. And in the first episode already, which is one of the things that got me on board, is she plays against this older guy who contracts a pro golfer she posed for in an official tournament. Like, she wore a fucking Mission Impossible mask, like one of those plastic masks, whatever you see in that movie series, and posed as this pro golfer because the pro golfer lady hurt her leg, ankle, whatever, and couldn't play, but she didn't want to lose her, whatever it's called, her standing in the golf league, whatever, which she would have if she weren't able to play. So Eve posed as her and actually did a decent job, did worse than she could have because the lady didn't want it to make look like she was too good, whatever. But yeah, then this rich guy hires that pro golf lady to play against Eve, and the pro golf lady agrees because she wants to test Eve's real skills and everything, and they play at night at this weird train yard thing. And Eve hits the ball through a moving train. Yes! And not a moving train that's moving forward, and she hits the ball from the top of the train to the end of the train, or from the first car to the last car. No, right, like through
like through one of the train cars as it's moving laterally.
Yeah, there's a gap in between two train cars, and she just hits the ball through there. Of course.
Shut up! That's even more ridiculous.
Yeah, indeed. And John, that's not the end. With that ball, she hits a rake that lies on the ground. And that's how the ball actually gets into the fucking hole. So it's just this ridiculous trick shot, and I'm already on board. Not to mention that she says some crazy shit like straight attack or straight drive, blue bullet, before she hits the ball, the golf ball. So, yeah, she's like, straight attack, blue bullet, because she's like, my gun has several bullets, and every bullet is a different kind of golf stroke, I guess. One is more direct, one is more upwards, which is a red bullet, one is curved, which is a purple bullet later on, and everything. So that's her thing, right?
Oh my god.
All just general golf moves. Just normal things. With her, they're like special attacks.
Just golf things.
Yeah, just golf things. And they're, super strong and everything. And that's her thing. And she's like super direct. She isn't very tactical. She isn't dumb, but she's very straightforward. A bit of a shonen vibe to her in that regard. And that's how she plays, and that's how she wins. Basically, she oozes so much confidence in her play and does such crazy, very high-risk maneuvers that she pulls the players who go against her into this kind of vortex of craziness, of risk-taking, and they try to ape her style and then fail because they're not used to playing this crazy underground bullshit style, right? So they lose the game because they're more used to normal strategic play, and she plays this high-risk, really crazy maneuver golf and has just done that and is really good at it. But everyone else who gets intimidated by it and tries to, oh my god, if I don't do something similar, I'm going to lose. They get thrown off their game automatically, and they start to play like her and fail at it. So that's her shtick, like that's her deal, that's her method of winning her games, and that's really cool. It's like this neat. It was like this kind of neat setup for like, oh hey, it's not like she is a prodigy or anything. She is very good, but she had a very capable teacher. And maybe there's more to her upbringing and everything that we don't know about yet. But basically, she got a really hard-ass teacher with scars everywhere for some reason. I don't know how he got them, but for playing golf, whatever. He has scars all over his fucking face, and his name is Leo. And not that Guilty Gear character, but close enough. He looks kind of similar.
I didn't even think of Leo while you're saying.
Yeah, but yeah, close enough, really. So that's how she learned that stuff, and it was hard work, and she got really good at it and developed like her own style, or the style he was basically injecting her with, which was really interesting. And you have the underground aspect to it and everything. So it's like, oh, this is a cool setup for golf. It's not standard, and if we stick with the underground golf stuff, that might be super interesting. Let's see where this goes. So the other big component that happens in the first episode, like I said in the intro, that I stole from my animal list. I don't even know. She picks up a bet or something that her caddy Lily arranged. Who, as I also mentioned that in the sneak peek, the show does this thing where we think she is betting her virginity for one of the games. But then it turns out she was putting her favorite Gunpla on the line, or some high rare Gunpla thing, because she's a Gunpla nutjob.
Of course, it's Bandai Namco.
It's Bandai Namco. Oh, there are a bunch of...
They did it with Love Live as well, so,
That's not the only Bandai Namco reference in here. There's a barrage of Bamco product placement.
Please tell me Klonoa is somewhere in there. That my boy gets representation.
I haven't spotted Klonoa, but Aoi, the Eve's fated rival, which we'll talk about momentarily, uses golf balls that have Pac-Man on them, and
there you go.
And every time she places them down, she says like, "We will do this, Pak-kun," and I'm like, "All right, all right, Bamco, you having fun there?" So there's some other stuff that kind of confused me, and I think that's also related to product placement that we'll get to later. But yeah, Eve, due to one reason or another, ends up on a normal golf course during a tournament in the first episode and stumbles over Aoi, or Aoi stumbles over her, more or less. She sees Eve make a play, hit a ball, and is fascinated by her super powerful stroke. And yeah, so she gets intrigued and they play a short match against each other, and they become infatuated with each other. There's like Eve is very intrigued by Aoi's cool and calm demeanor, but has super skillful play. And Eve is this kind of character. It's like she doesn't really like golf. She herself says, "I just hit a ball and make money with it. I don't play golf." It's just like,
hey, there you go.
It's just honest. A way. Yeah, it's just a way to make money for me, and I don't really have any feelings about it. And the only thing that makes me even want to do it is when I'm tested, when I get excited, when I have a good challenge and stuff like that. And Aoi gives her that. And added to that is Eve's usual thing where, her risk vortex, if you want to call it that, doesn't really work on Aoi because, like also stated in the intro, Aoi is called the innocent tyrant by her peers because she plays with a smile and this very sunny attitude all the time. Like nothing seems to faze her. Not even Eve's standoffish attitude. It's like she says, "Hey, you did great. Oh, you were so close." Like, you know these people, these really irritating people who seem like they are in a good mood all the fucking time. That's Aoi. But
I used to work with someone like that. It was very disarming, to say the least.
Yeah, but she's not faking it. Like, she's really that person. She has a very, gung-ho positive attitude. And she is very sympathetic. She becomes endearing very quickly. And she's like this prodigy. Her dad was like a super golfer. Everyone called the monster. Her mom was a super successful pro golfer. So these are her two gifts. At least that's what her mom calls it. She's like, my daughter has two gifts. First is my blood. The other one is her father's blood. Which is a bit condescending in my opinion. But, Aoi's caddy says no, she also has a third gift. And that is being able to enjoy golf to its fullest and killing her opponents with a joyful smile, right? So that's her thing. That's the thing she did. That's not what she got from her father or from her mother. She developed that on her own. That's her attitude. And that also very much contributes to her being so successful at golf. So these two very different characters with very different backgrounds clash and like each other and are very hung up on each other. And then, they have to end that game, but they promise like, hey, one day we will battle each other. Due to an underground match that she has to do, though, Eve misses their last play before Aoi has to leave for Japan again. And then they have kind of like this super sad breakup scene where Aoi's already in the plane and taking off, and she's like, "You liar!" And Eve like hits the ball aside of the plane that is flying off into the distance. It's this kind of show, John. So
you keep hitting me with all these things, and I'm like, I feel like we both watch a lot of anime.
Yeah,
this is new.
Absolutely. Like this,
which is cool, but
yeah. This
is out there.
Yes, this is absolutely out there. Like the first, and I haven't talked even about the half of it, John. So this is like the first introduction to the show, and I'm like, okay, I'm super on board with this. Like, if this was just normal golf, might have some trouble getting into this, even if it was a sports anime. But I got super moves, I got the weird underground component to it, I got two characters that are very opposing, but both sympathetic, right? And then cool side characters, like Lily is neat, hers and Eve's dynamic is very cool, very friendly. Like, we're in the first episode, we have like, we are hit with this neat insert song, and see like a montage of Eve and Lily hanging out, just chilling the day away, and also, playing with the kids from the tavern and shit like that. And super cool and neat and endearing. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, great. Right. I'm in a good mood watching this show. I haven't talked about the animation yet. The show doesn't have super high production values, I would say. It looks kind of I wouldn't call it generic, but standard affair. There are no big Sakuga moments or anything, but it's very solid. Like, characters seem on models mostly, and there are not any weird, super stiff movements or stuff like that. There's a lot of creative framing, especially when it comes to the underground matches. There's some crazy shit happening, like JoJo says hello, and it's good stuff. I would even say it's on that kind of quality level, like maybe JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which, you know, sometimes has some really cool stuff going for it, sometimes it's a bit more stiff, but this is more on a very good baseline level. So nothing eye-cancer inducing, nothing that was putting me off. I was like, oh, yeah, this looks really good. The character designs are cool, really neat and creative. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's still kind of, for the most part, 2 exceptions from the rule, it's very grounded in reality still, you know, when it comes to clothing and design of the characters, but it's diverse enough so that doesn't look boring. But yeah, like I said, in the first 1 or 2 episodes, it seems like the show will be mostly about Eve and Aoi. We don't really know in what way yet, because, you know, then Aoi leaves for Japan, and like, okay, but where is this going? Will Eve follow her? Will Aoi return to Nofrasa? What's going to happen? And, you know, you don't get the feeling that Aoi is, like, afraid to challenge Eve again or anything. You know, she's more than willing to take up any challenge Eve dishes out, because she's just as competitive as Eve is in her own way, which is effectively depicted in the OP Venus line, which is also really nice. She has, like, this running contest in there with her caddy and manager Amane, who I think didn't really mean it to be a contest, but you have, like, this nice moment where Aoi is jogging, and then Amane catches up to her, and Aoi looks over to her, and then just starts a dash. It's like, no, I'm gonna win this. And Amane is like, wait, this wasn't a competition. What are you doing? So you need to know, yeah, she's driven. Just as much as Eve, probably. So if they played together, maybe as a team, well, some shit could go down, right? They could upturn the world of professional golf. We'll see. What I also want to mention, I might be going on a limb here, but still, like, the framing of the scene in the first episode where Aoi says she will play with her gigantic 48-inch driver is downright sexual. Like, taking that into consideration.
To say that sounds very purposefully worded.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that picking the 48 was a very deliberate choice by the creators, because it means that the girls are saying in Japanese, Yonju Hachi Inchi, multiple times. And the last part of that word sure sounds a lot like chin-chin, which is the Japanese slang word for dick. I know this absolutely sounds like a stretch, but I get the feeling...
Don't worry about it, it's fine.
I get the feeling people who made the show were very self-aware at points. You know, the way the camera just zooms over the fucking club, and I'm like, all right. And then you hear shit all the time, and I'm like, okay, I think I see what you're doing here, show. And, you know, not that it's going... I mean, in some parts it's getting kind of raunchy and kind of lewd, but it's not like this super mega titty show where they're just tits flying everywhere all the time. I mean, Eve is kind of busty and everything, and we have 1 or 2 shower scenes, but it's not like that is the show. Hey, here, pretty sexy girls throwing their tits at each other and also golf. That's not really what the show is. But in that first episode, it's a couple of few scenes I was like, oh, okay. There's some vibes, and also, you know, there is definitely some chemistry between Aoi and Eve. So, yeah, there's that. I think Jothu called his video about the series lesbian golf mafia or something. So that also that tracks. So, but yeah, one thing in the beginning I already had a bit of a problem with was I wish the show would have explained golf terms to me, like birdie and eagle, like for, you know, do that stuff for newbies like me. I don't know what these terms mean and had to look them up. I mean, I'd heard them before, but I didn't know what they mean. So
Yeah, there's a lot of different terminology for when you come in under or over par. It's a lot.
And I mean, not all sports anime do that, but and some don't need to because the rules of the game are pretty simple. I mean, the rules for golf seem to be also very simple, but if you throw terminology around, maybe explain that. Slam Dunk was pretty good about that, I think, if I remember correctly, because the creator of the manga also was very intent on actually teaching you how to play basketball. And there are some other anime that did it pretty well. But yeah, I prefer shows that take the time to explain the most elemental terminology of their given sports, just so that I can get more invested, right? It's like, okay, I know what these people are talking about all the time. So that's something I was missing, was like, no, they're just starting to talk about it and starting about talking about par and everything, like under par and so much under par. And like, okay, I guess I know what this means, but I'm not sure. So, yeah.
I definitely get the differences between a birdie, an eagle, and an albatross confused all the time. So
there you go. Lots of birds. So, I will link an explanation to all these terms in the episode description. So, dear viewers, if you're interested to learn more about golf terminology, I gotcha. So, okay, tackling again Eve's play style. She cannot just do crazy straight shots. Like I said, she has several different bullets that do several different things for different situations, which equates to different shots. She is very aware of her environment. For example, she misses a shot in a match against Aoi due to a tree branch being in the way. But the next day, that branch isn't there anymore, so she knows that she will be able to make that shot 100%. She's pretty calculating at times. On the other hand, she is not used to playing long tournament matches, so the show has enough ways to level the playing field, so to speak, and keep things interesting. I like that as well. When it puts one more facet to her character, it's like, okay, she's really good at a certain thing, and she's not stupid, but also she's not like the perfect golfer or anything, right? She has some weak spots that she has to deal with. But yeah, this show comes up with enough twists and turns to keep it exciting, and the rules are still simple enough to understand when someone is performing well in the sport and when someone isn't. It's not like in Yuri on Ice, for example, where you are completely fucked if you have no idea how ice skating is scored, which was my situation when watching that show. And I was completely lost. Wait, is the character doing good? Are they doing bad? What's going on? I don't understand this. So that doesn't happen to me in this show. It's like you always know, okay, they're doing good, but sometimes you're not sure how good they're doing. Are they doing much better than the other character? Is it close? Are they doing much worse? So that was a bit of a problem. But aside from that, mostly it's a very simple sport, and it's framed very simply in this show. It's like, no, you know when a character is doing good stuff and when a character is doing bad stuff. So, but that's kind of the thing for the actual golf part or the normal golf part. Of course, the real highlight of the show are the underground golf matches. You got everything in there. Transforming golf courses, like literal transforming golf courses in an underground arena where you have parts of the course driven around on like these tank vehicles that completely change up the layout of the course.
What?
It looks ridiculous, like super science fiction. You have literal mafia wars being decided by golf duels.
That's no weirder than children's card games, I guess.
It's good that you bring that up, John, because that was one of the things I was thinking about when the show went into that. There was a Yu-Gi-Oh thing going here, in my opinion. At least in the beginning, that's what it felt like. That's what the show was leading up to. The more I watched of this and the more I got into shows, it felt like, okay, this is going to be a weird, I don't know, Kaiji or Yu-Gi-Oh thing where they have like these underground battles like against gangsters and they play for their lives. And if you die in the golf game, you die for real, whatever. But, then you have some JoJo's posing in there and everything, and it's like, holy shit, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. You have larger-than-life characters in there, like later there's a character called Vipera, and she's like this snake woman that uses poison in her match, and It has like this super weird snaky design and everything. And I'm like, okay, now, yes. All right. This is where I wanted this show to go. I didn't know I wanted it to go there, but this is exactly what I wanted. With the 5th episode, the show introduces VR golf.
What?
And I thought, okay. This is definitely going into Yu-Gi-Oh! Territory. This is where we're going. They have like, and that's the other thing what I was mentioning was like, is this product placement? Because it's like, it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, Eve tries to find a way to connect with Aoi, even though she's in Japan and everything, and they by accident meet up in this VR golf game. Like, Eve goes into V Arcade and then plays there, and then they meet up in the VR golf game, and Aoi teaches her some things. That's how Eve gets her curve shot, basically, her slice, her purple bullet. And I'm like, okay, so we're gonna go here, right? It's gonna be eventually, this is gonna turn like into Yu-Gi-Oh! VR golf madness, where they summon some weird monster shit, right? Something like that. It's gonna be super crazy. They're gonna shoot each other with golf balls and kill each other in there or something. That kind of happens. At some point, Eve is pulled into this game that is about this war between two mafia clans about property rights to a plot of land in the city that one of them wants to tear down and the other one, I don't know what they even want to do with it. But yeah, she gets pulled into that war. And at the end of that storyline, at the end of that arc, she basically has to play for her life together with Vipera at her side. And it's like, okay, wow, she's going to be her caddy now. And this is getting crazy and crazy. And they play with their lives. And it gets even more ridiculous than that. There's a super crazy plot twist at the end of that game. And I'm like, what is going on? And then it gets super dark. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is one of the best sports anime I've ever seen. And then the show kind of stops and completely changes the setting and character cast and becomes a normal generic sports anime.
What?
Yep.
But we had all this build up to all this wacky stuff and it's just gone?
Yep.
Why? What?
I have no idea, John. And that's where the show lost me, sadly.
Because Namco, what is you doing?
I have no fucking idea, John. Up to that point, this was one of the most unique, cool, stylish, bullshit story, insane characters series I've seen, especially in this genre. And it ends on a super high note, where it's like, holy shit, this was amazing. Like, there's so much crazy shit happening, and I can't even imagine where we go from here. Up to that point, I was wondering, how will the show eventually marry its two different aspects? Like what we saw in the beginning, the normal tournament stuff, with Aoi and everything, and her and Eve butting heads, and the crazy dark gangster sci-fi side. How will the show mesh that together at some point? Short answer is it doesn't. And that is sadly the biggest flaw of this show, because it did not what I wanted it to do, which is go even more insane with all the stuff it was showing me in its first 7 episodes. No, after the 7 episodes, like I said, okay, I'll give it that. It's not afraid, not afraid to mix things up and change the status quo, which a lot of shows are, okay, we're just going to stick with this one thing and it's going to be that all the time. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But this show is okay, I told this one story, which is kind of apart from this other one, and now I'm going to start over after 7 episodes and basically do the stuff I was hinting at the very beginning, but almost completely ignore what happened before this. And it feels like such a jarring cut, especially because, like I said, the ending of episode 7 was super dark in a way. It's like, this is... And then we get super light high school sports anime drama. The lightest, the most trivial, the most trite. Eve is traveling to Japan after all that crazy mafia shit where random people from, I don't know, public offices get attacked with rocket launchers in their cars and blown up. And then we go from there to Eve going to Japan and trying to get into the golf club of the high school where Aoi plays so they can play together. And I'm like, what? What is going on? What are you doing, show? What the hell? And that's when the show lost me. I gotta say, sadly. In the beginning, it was very much about also showing that certain actions have consequences. And I was like, holy shit, this is getting more serious and interesting than I thought. Like, Eve experiences that firsthand when something she does without thinking about endangers her family. And things get really dire and dangerous at some point. Like, there's like this ticking time bomb component to it. And I'm like, what? Cool. This is amazing. Okay, we have some real drama here. And then, you got the cool sports component to it and the crazy JoJo's aspect to it and maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then all that evaporates. And I'm like, whoa, huh? We still have ridiculous plot twists. I thought the one in episode 7 was the most ridiculous one. But then at the beginning of episode 8, it seems like when Eve arrives in Japan, she suddenly starts talking Japanese and is surprised that she can speak Japanese. And I'm like, huh? Okay. All right. I assume this might be linked to her actual childhood, which we don't know anything about yet. So that might come into play. Maybe she's half Japanese or whatever. Maybe she's Aoi's hidden sister because Aoi's mom has blonde hair and so does Eve. And, golf prodigy, maybe they're long-lost sisters. That could be the case. But it was like super weird. So I was holding out hope, right? We still, at the beginning of 8, had like this ridiculous thing. So, this is going to stay that kind of show. It's just going to take a short break and then we're going to get ridiculous again. But no, it's not where it's going. It's also throwing a lot of tropes at you that I don't like. Like, the trope where anime characters are afraid to hug or are afraid to return physical affection in any way. Before this, we had like this very kind of blistering sexual atmosphere a bit, maybe, between some characters. And then we have like, in the beginning of episode 8 or 9, Aoi wants to jump into Eve's arms when they are finally reunited, and Eve is a very forward character, and she just steps aside and lets Aoi fall on the ground for comedic effect. I get it when it's two Japanese people who do that. That, might be a cultural thing, but Eve is not Japanese. I mean, she might be, like I said, but she didn't grow up in that culture or environment, at least not as far as she remembers. So this is dumb bullshit. She would have totally hugged Aoi. She was super happy to see her. And that was like this weird scene that didn't absolutely fit the show at all. At least not what we had seen up to that point. It almost feels like the second half of the show is written by a completely different person.
That or corporate saw what was going on and was like, what are you guys doing?
That's the question. The thing is, I can't wholeheartedly say that because maybe I was expecting stuff from the show that it necessarily didn't say it would give me all the time. Because if you look at the OP is all about the normal tournament stuff, really. You only see Eve and Aoi playing on normal golf courses. You see mostly normal characters, aside from Repere and some of the mafia guys, but only those characters, right? They're only highlighted there. You don't see Eve playing any underground matches in that OP. You don't see any people get blown up by rocket launchers or shit like that. You don't see any of the dark stuff, really. And you only see normal tournament stuff. So the OP was kind of like, yeah, that's what's the show eventually gonna be. But because the show front loads its first 7 episodes with all this crazy bullshit, I was expecting that this would be the whole show. And that's not what happened. So maybe I just, misread the show and it's like, hey, okay, the first episode was just a small introduction to Eve and maybe Aoi comes back later and she gets pulled into all this mess. But no, it was the other way around. And that was surprising to me and disappointing, I gotta say, because I was hoping for something else. But I don't know if I can actually blame the show for doing it because it kind of told me in its OP that this is what it's eventually would become.
That seems like such a jarring switch, though.
Absolutely. It was super
just
jarring.
All of a sudden, we're normal now.
Yes, exactly. It was super strange. And I mean, you haven't watched the episode, but if you've seen it, you would have been like completely confused that this is what we would do next for the next 6 episodes. Starting with episode 8, or the end of episode 7, the very end, I guess. Completely changes its setting, goes to Japan, and character roster, like Lily basically gets completely taken out of the show. Klein, the bar owner, the 3 kids get completely taken out of the show almost. And we have this new character who becomes, or is intent on becoming, the caddy of Eve and Aoi. And she becomes the new focus. And then we have all the other rivals in the high school girl golf club. So that becomes the focus. And everything that came before it, like all the characters from the mafia environment and everything, they're all gone. And gets rid of the insane underground golf antics in favor of more classic high school sports anime plot. Which is kind of a shame. I mean, that's totally fine in itself, but that's not what I signed up for, at least not after watching the first episode, because that promised something else. I mean, the underground gold stuff now provides a solid background for why Eve totally does not fit in with the other normal golf girls, because she's like a standoffish hothead with a very unusual direct styles, and she's still playing that very high risk golf style, which is also makes her clash with Aoi at some point, because Aoi wants to play it safe, right? Because they're very clearly winning, and Eve is not thrilled enough and is taking super high risks. So, you know, they still have to find common ground at some points. They're not like the immediate perfect pair and everything. They have to get used to playing as a team with each other's style, not against each other, because that's what they actually want to do, kinda, I guess. So the first 7 episodes, story-wise and character-wise, still kind of serve a purpose, since we know how Eve came to be that way, came to be the way she is. But still, it just feels like the show started firing on all cylinders and then settled for a somewhat more generic thing. Unless Eve's past catches up to her, and it might, because there's still some people out there that might try to get her and might try to kill her, actually, and everything. And then things might get crazy again. But if that doesn't happen, that just feels a bit like wasted potential here. We still have girls with sports anime superpowers, kind of like that one captain of the golf club that literally gets in the zone, which is pretty much her version of Zawardo. But, you know, a couple of episodes ago, or even 1 episode ago, one of these characters was fighting for her life on an underground transforming mafia golf course with a snake lady as her caddy against her gangster mother figure who has a cyborg arm doing JoJo poses. You can't just switch from that to that same character playing mini golf to get into the high school golf club. That's too much of a divergence in tone. You don't do that. Not even in anime. It's like...
Is there supposed to be another season coming up, and maybe they might get back to that? Oh, okay.
There is a second core, but what is teased so far from that, it seems like they're just going with the normal tournament stuff. They're Eve and are playing in the tournament right now, so I think that will be finished up with the second core. It doesn't seem like it's gonna go back to the underground ghost. I might be wrong. If they do, I'm totally back on board again. I'm just like, okay, so this was just a small detour, and now we're going back to the interesting stuff. Sure, other shows have done that, right? Consider it maybe a filler arc, or not even a filler arc, because we didn't really know much about Aoi yet. So it was a nice way to learn about her world, right? We only have basically just seen Eve's world up to that point. Some sprinkles in between where we see how controlling Aoi's mother is and everything, and we see how the stuff in the pro golf world works and everything, and the sponsorship with the companies and all that shit, and which also have kind of like mafia-esque structures to them. So there's some stuff that echoes in regards to Aoi's world when compared to Eve's world. So if it's used for that, and it's like, hey, okay, no, we're just going to show you the 2 worlds that the characters live in, and then we're going to have them together go play crazy underground golf, play for their lives, whatever. Then I'm back on board. I'm like, holy shit, this is great. But so far, that doesn't seem what the show seems to be intent on doing.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and the VR thing also didn't go anywhere. Like, that's what I was talking about when I thought, okay, was this just mainly a product placement thing? Like, does Bamco have VR arcades? And it was some form of thing where they wanted to show that off? I mean, it serves a purpose in the plot by providing a training ground for Aoi and Eve to play together. But you can't drop Yu-Gi-Oh! As Chekhov's gun in a show with this kind of premise and not do anything with it. It's like, that's not what you do. I was severely confused that was not where the show was going, because that was definitely the tone of the first 7 episodes. Like, you introduced really an underground base of a mafia boss who has a golf course that is literally transforming with lakes in it. Like, it's crazy. It's like this giant thing. I've never seen something like this. And like, okay, this is the right amount of bullshit. I am on board. So we're gonna switch from that because it's too cost expensive. We're gonna switch to VR, or everyone is gonna get a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Arm thing that projects like monsters that you have to beat to death with golf clubs. I don't fucking know. But I expected something like this.
I gotta ask a question about something earlier. When you said about golfing in someone's backyard. So in my head, I have this vision of, someone's just, kind of very meticulously mowed and kept this patch of yard very clean so they can use it as like a putting green, right? Please tell me what you mean is someone just has like a 350-yard hole in their backyard because shut up, they do.
I don't know if it was specifically someone's backyard, but it was like this weird, made up, mostly dirt-based golf course in the back of a train yard. Okay. So it was like someone had to put it there.
Okay, all right.
And I assume there are random golf courses all over the city because golf seems to be a super big thing and seems to be played everywhere. I mean, like I said, there's this crazy underground base even. So they didn't show all of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone did. Like the rich guy from the very first episode probably has that thing, but they weren't playing at his house. So I don't think anyway. Maybe in a later episode that I missed, but yeah. So
okay. I just wanted to be like, oh yes, I've got a hole in my backyard. Oh yeah, you go putting? No, I mean like a golf hole, like part of a 1/18 of a course in my backyard.
Yeah, could have been the case. Sure. I wouldn't be surprised. See, that would have been the stuff I would like in this show, where they like play all over the city. And I tried to do that with a show recently that was about baseball, but I don't understand the rules of baseball, so that's why I didn't watch that. But that seemed to be going more into the crazy side and playing all over the city. So I wanted that from this. I wanted that from this show, and I expected to get this from this show, or a different version of crazy. So that's why I like the first 7 episodes of this so much. And yeah, instead of Aoi pulling Eve into normal golf, I would have preferred Eve pulling Aoi into the dark world of underground golfing, and then them rising through the ranks, Golden Wind style, or like I said, this becoming some wild Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Gundam Bill Fighters VR golf show. It was all there, but sadly that's not what the show went for. Maybe it will still happen later, but I pretty much doubt it. It's such a bummer. Like, the first 7 episodes were so hilarious and entertaining. All the characters were great and sympathetic. And then all that energy just pretty much flatlines and evaporates once it gets to the more generic golf stuff. It's not even a bad show after this shift. That's not what I'm saying. It's a really solid sports anime about a high school girl golf club. Like, the tournament in the last 2 episodes also isn't bad, but it's just that. A normal sports anime, which I like usually. But it was something special and amazing before. You said it, you noticed it. You were like, hey, this feels new. And that's the same thing I felt when I watched those first 7 episodes. Like, hey, this is something different. I haven't seen this before, and I love this. And then it just ceases to be that. Maybe if the trajectory was reversed, like if it started with the normal golf club storyline and then got crazy at the halfway point, it would have left a better final impression. But like this, I just see an unfulfilled promise of what we could have had and the generic thing that it turned into. It's just wasted potential, in my opinion. And we still don't know anything about Eve's past, so maybe that's when things get crazy again. Or, like I said, she's just always half-sister, which would make their kind of romantic chemistry weird in hindsight, but yeah. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. Oh no,
they just wanted to be related.
Yeah, no, they just wanted to be friends, John. They didn't want to do naughty stuff with the 48-inch driver.
They're cousins. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
Sailor Moon dub. Jesus Christ.
Anyway, yeah. So the second season will air in January next year. But unless I hear something about it getting wacky again, I'm probably not gonna watch it. Which I didn't expect it when I was like at the halfway point of the show. I was like, oh, this is gonna be one of my all-time favorite sports anime, the way this is going, because it's just so nutty. And yeah, sadly, that's not how it turned out. You can watch the show on Crunchyroll if you intend to. And I would say watch at least the first 7 episodes. They're amazing. And it's actually a nice self-contained mini arc. Like, the ending of episode 7 works as a good finale to the story, kind of. Like, you don't get the wrap-up and you don't really get the Eve meeting Aoi again on the screen, but it's like inferred that that's what she's gonna do because she has to leave the country. But it's like, okay, that's where they're going, and that's would have been like this nice Hollywood ending. You see the plane, you maybe Eve thinks about Oi, and you know, they're gonna meet again and they're gonna play golf together. And then it's just like this weird little mini-series after 7 episodes, and it works like that. And if you watch it like that, I think this is one of my favorite shows in recent time. And the 7 episodes are, of course, a pretty quick watch. Like, you can knock those out in one evening. And if you're into golf and cool characters, definitely check out the second half, I guess. That one kind of lost me, like I said, because I'm not into normal golf. And considering that the first half of this, what the first half of the show offered, the second half just felt like a downgrade to me. So yeah, these are basically 2 completely different shows packed into 13 episodes. I wholeheartedly recommend the first show, not so much the second, but hey, maybe you like that one too, so definitely check out Birdie Wing. It might just be the magic sports anime bullet you were looking for.
So, stepping from the golf course onto the dance floor, kind of. Because it's time for Birdie or Ya Boy Kongming.
Is there a direct translation for the Japanese title?
Okay. So Birdie is a portmanteau of the words party and people.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And
so it's not party and peeing. That's a relief.
Oh my god, no.
Hey, it can happen. Ever heard of ecstasy? I mean, I'm talking out of my ass. I have no idea how ecstasy works.
About this? And Kolmei is how you'd say Kongming's name in the original Chinese. So.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. But I feel like Ya Boy Kongming is a much more...
It's a better, stronger name.
Yes, absolutely. It's like immediately you want to know what it's about.
The only way it could be better is if they spelled boy B-O-I instead of B-O-Y. It's a missed opportunity.
That is true. Yeah.
So, Zhuge Liang earned his reputation as one of the greatest tacticians of the Three Kingdoms period of 3rd century China. Having led his army through countless grueling victories, Kongming falls gravely ill during the Battle of Wuzhang Plains. Should be noted, before I keep going, that a lot of these people had like courtesy names in this time period. So his given name was Zhuge Liang, but it's like his courtesy name was Kongming.
Ah, okay. So it's more of a title thing, I guess?
I don't think it's quite like a title thing.
Okay.
Hold on. We're researching this in real time. Okay. A courtesy name. Don't know how to say that in Chinese. So, also known as a style name. A style name.
There we go.
Is a name bestowed upon one at adulthood in addition to one's given name. This practice is a tradition in the East Asian cultural sphere, including China, Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. A courtesy name is not to be confused with an art name. Another frequently mentioned term for an alternative name in East Asia, which is closer to the concept of a pen name or a pseudonym. Oh, okay, all right. Mm-hmm. So there you go. You would call Zhuge Liang Kongming if you were more familiar with him, I believe is what they're driving at.
Interesting.
So the weariness and regret stemming from the seemingly never-ending war catch up with him, and as he draws his final breath, Kongming wishes that if he were to reincarnate, he would be reborn in a more peaceful era. His wish comes true, and Kongming wakes up in modern-day Tokyo with a younger body and his memories intact. Thrust into an unfamiliar world, he finds his way into a nightclub and meets Eiko Tsukumi, an aspiring singer whose performance immediately captivates him. Pitying his confusion, Eiko takes Kongming under his wing and teaches him about the current world, which leads to Kongming's interest in contemporary music. Seeing Eiko's immense musical potential, Kongming vows to make the musical world recognize her and soon takes on the role of her manager. Unsurprisingly, the music industry is unforgiving to those who make even the slightest mistakes. Still, Kongming is determined to accomplish his goals, even if he must utilize the war stratagems he famously used in his previous life. Thank you, my anime list, for that summary.
Yeah. Sometimes we write the intros to the shows ourselves, I guess, but mostly we steal them from Wikipedia, Anime News Network, or my anime list. Just full disclosure.
Yeah.
Just so that people don't think like we made that up ourselves, those summaries.
There was one time, I can't remember what show it was, where there was like no good ad copy for it. Mm-hmm, and I ended up writing my own, and I was like, someone hire me to do this, because I'll do it.
I did all the introductions in the beginning myself. I wrote them all down myself, taking some bits and pieces from here and there, but usually writing most of that myself. But I was like, why? Just there are a bunch of good ones usually out there. So if you need to add some stuff to that, you can, but you can take the baselines. So it's just a bit less work intensive. And as long as we don't pretend that we made all of that shit up ourselves, I think it's fine to take that from other sites. But this sounds very interesting, John. Like, what does a war tactician do when it comes to kicking off the career or giving the career of an upstart artist another boost? What is his strategy?
He does war things, but we'll get to that in a second. So this is all based on a manga of the same name. Written by Yuto Yotsuba in illustrations by Ryo Ogawa. And the manga has been going since late 2019, early 2020. And it's still going.
Mm-hmm. So there will probably be a second season.
I hope so. I really hope so, because where they left off, it was a good ending point. But you can tell that, yes, there's more story to go.
Well, it seems the show was a pretty big surprise hit with everyone, at least on the Western side of things. I don't know how much it resonated in Japan.
Yeah, so I remember back when this adaptation was announced, reading the summary and being like, this is stupid. This is dumb. I'm so done with this like isekai garbage, even reverse isekai stuff. And then I saw the opening sequence, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see how it goes. And this was produced by the folks at PA Works. We've talked about them several times and how they have. And I said when we introduced this during the sneak peek, PA Works has built this weird reputation for themselves where they'll work on something that's like, well, first off, they throw themselves at everything they do just like whole hog. They don't half-ass anything. Absolutely not.
Like the premise be so fucking weird, they don't give a shit. They just go all in.
Yeah, they always go all in. Very much like Kyoto Animation, kind of.
Yes, just to mention, Appare Ranman. Like, who comes up with that shit? Wacky races with it's all across the fucking US and with that kind, with these kind of cast of characters. And then it's weirdly a cowboy western show also, and it works. And sometimes it doesn't work, sure. Yeah. But it's you never feel like you said, like they're half-assing us. Maybe the story doesn't work out. Maybe some of the character writing is weak or stuff like that. And that's usually the downfall of the show. It's never the animation.
No.
And never the production values and everything. It just feels like, okay, sometimes just the story, sometimes the thing that's on paper doesn't, or, in Word, doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, because some of the stuff they worked on is like, but some of the other stuff is real. Like, I remember starting to watch, like, I think it was Glass Slip and being like, what am I watching, dude? And Irozuku didn't really resonate with either of us either. But you know, they found some real success in doing like the big the Working Girls series of shows, like Hanasaku Iroha, Shirobako, Sakura Quest, I think. Yeah, that's what it was called. I had to think about it for a second. Wow. But then they have the other side, which is like the weird out there stuff that doesn't always hit. But then they have this, which is super weird, and it works. Like, so when Kongming arrives in the middle of Shibuya, it's so weird because he appears there on Halloween when it's a party scene and everyone's going crazy and everyone's getting crunk and they're dancing in the streets, and it's like, what did I jump into with this show? But
he probably thinks he died. You know, he did die, but he probably thinks he arrived in hell or something like that. He
says that exactly. He's like, "Is this hell? What's going on?" And then he meets Eiko, and the way the two of them hit it off is so good. Like, the dynamic between Kongming and Eiko is so great because getting Kongming up to speed with modern day Japan, or modern day the world, is they kind of breeze through it over the course of like 2 minutes, and then they don't really bother with it again, which means, you know, they're able to keep the story going at a real brisk pace. And I really appreciate that. You know, they sort of cross that first hurdle real quickly, and you know, I understand that might raise some questions, like, how is he so used to so quickly? Shut up, don't worry about it.
He's a genius. I mean, that's the conceit, right?
Yeah, he's a master tactician.
Yeah, he's one of the brightest people from his time, and a tactician at that, so you would expect him to be able to adapt pretty quickly to a new situation, as crazy as it might be for his sensibilities.
Gives a whole new meaning to adapt or die.
Yeah.
So them two, Eiko and Kongming, meet, and he gets to know her and hears her singing both in the club, and there's this incredible piece where they're back in like Eiko's apartment and she's playing this acoustic piece on her guitar and singing, and it's like lavishly animated and just presented, and it's so good. And and that's where Kongming is like, yeah, I want to help this girl out. And
is there a romantic thing going on between them?
No,
or is
absolutely not. And I'm super glad for that.
Yeah, it's more of like, hey, maybe a father-daughter thing, maybe, but more of like, hey, I'm going to be your mentor, or I feel
manager-client sort of thing.
Manager-client thing, yeah. You lit a fire in me, you inspired me, and that's something I was missing because the grinding gears of war have eroded my spirit, and you revived it again. So yeah, that seems like that's what they were going for. So that's neat. That's what I was hoping for. What the dynamic would be between them. But you mentioned the scene in the apartment where that was so lavishly animated and had this really nice guitar piece. How's the music in the show in general? Because that is a big focus, I guess, just story-wise.
It's all really good, man. Like, I think this is probably what you wanted from Zombieland Saga. Because there isn't just... One of the big focuses is that Eiko wants to be an EDM star with her music. But they explore... EDM. They explore other genres too, like they have her playing that acoustic piece. There's some like rap and hip hop. There's other things in there as well. So there's a pretty good variation of things going on all throughout the series.
And considering it's PA works, there's probably no CG shenanigans when it comes to the performances.
I think there might have been like little bits, but nothing that was like that I felt like would take you out of it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I've seen some clips, right? But it's not like that doesn't give me any information if that is like all the performances or if that is the general style or just a highlighted scene where it's just like, oh, they put all of the money for that episode into that one single performance or whatever.
There's a group of girls later on that they use a little bit of CG for, but not a whole ton. You manage to avoid the computer-generated imagery demons.
Yeah, that brings, I mean, that also kind of encompasses what would have been my next question. I assume the animation in general is good for the entire show's runtime.
Yeah, I don't remember any like really bad parts sticking out to me. It stays pretty consistent throughout. And
so again,
that's all I can ask for, pretty much.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like Birdie Wing, probably a bit higher base level, but a very consistent, good, solid base level of animation. Yes. With some highlights in there, maybe like the one performance in her apartment or everything, or some concert performance.
Eiko has some pretty fun reaction faces too. Maybe not to the level of some of the other shows you talked about, but they're pretty funny.
Yeah, speaking of reaction faces, I mean, this, judging from your earlier comments and what you said about the show and what you said about the show in the sneak peek, this seems to be a very comedy-heavy show. So how is the comedy? Like, is it going for situational comedy mostly? Is there some slapstick in there? What is it pun humor? Like, what is this doing?
There's a little bit of comedy in there because the show starts off that, you know, nobody actually believes that this is actually Zhuge Liang.
I mean, why would they?
Shut up. There's no way you're that.
Yeah.
But Kobayashi, who is the owner of the club that Eiko works at, he's a big Three Kingdoms nerd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned it before, right?
So when he meets Zhuge Liang, he's like, no way, is this the real deal? And at first he's sort of questioning it. But as the series goes on, you sort of see him start to realize, yeah, this is the real guy, because they talk about strategy and they talk about things that Kongming would probably only know, and they're playing that board game Go in one of the offices at one point, and Kongming is just like outmaneuvering him every step of the way. So you know, he's the one who really realizes who Kongming is, and I think Eiko is sort of like most of the way there, but I think she's not entirely convinced.
Okay, so does that strategy talk and everything, that basically Three Kingdoms nerd talk, does that overstay its welcome? Where it's like, if you're not into that or if you're not familiar with that, you maybe get a bit lost? Or is it like going too deep into the minutia of it all? Or is it entertaining mostly?
I mean, they kind of touch on parts of it as they go through the show, and they explain things that people might not know. Like in the second episode, Kongming arranges for Eiko to sing at this other venue, and she's going up against this other singer, Miria Iromote. Mm-hmm. And Kongming realizes that Eiko's kind of outclassed here because Mia has a huge following, and they sort of split up this venue into separate floors, so that way Eiko probably won't get the bulk of the crowd. But Kongming uses this strategy to kind of funnel people down to where Eiko is performing, called the Stone Sentinel Maze, which was used in the Battle of Zhaoting, and basically used to keep people wandering around in the same area and to create confusion. So that way he kind of uses it to create this captive crowd and keep people in the same area where Eiko is performing. And people realize, you know, oh, this girl's really good, and she becomes, you know, helps, you know, raise some of her popularity. And it's like, wow, okay, some of these war tactics work. Cool.
I mean, that partially seems to be mean, but also, I mean, at least in regards to the other performer. But sure, I mean, that's
all is fair in war, CC.
Sure, true. Okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, that's what he's there for. Like, he's there as long as he doesn't kill the opposition. That's fine. So,
no. There's no killing. not yet. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
we'll see if the story goes on. I don't foresee from what they've shown from this season that there's any like actual murder going on.
Maybe some light kidnapping or some light drugging or shit like that.
Oh no.
We'll see. No. But yeah, that sounds fun. How's the character development in the show? Like, does anything aside from Kongming basically getting familiar with the modern day and developing these tactics to help Eiko, do we learn a lot more about him and about his past life? And does he like evolve in a certain way from, the guy he was before he died to someone new? Do some of his attitudes change? Does something change about Eiko? Like on her view on life or on her performances and what she's doing? Like, how do they influence each other?
Kongming's character, most of his arc is kind of settled right away where he's getting used to things in this new world. But, he's still also learning about the people around him. And a lot of it comes from his strategy of trying to get to know the people that he's trying to bring into his fold alongside Eiko and the people that they're competing against it, quote unquote, competing against at different venues. And Eiko's arc is a lot about gaining self-confidence. That, because at first she's sort of like, I don't know if I could draw a crowd, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, but it's what I want to do. And Kongming really kind of spurs her on to, you have to believe in yourself. You just got to do what you can and refine that. And he brings in this one rapper named Kabe Taijin, and he used to be like a big name street rapper, and he kind of fell out of it because he would get like really anxious on stage, like to the point where he would become like sick. And Kongming kind of brings him in to compete in this rap battle in the club against this other big name rapper. They have this knockdown drag out fight with their verses, with their bars. And he kind of regains a lot of his confidence that way, and he miraculously doesn't get sick during it. Well, that's because Kongming slipped some medicine into his drink to help settle his stomach. And right, okay. Again, his rival was named Sekitoba Kung Fu.
All right.
It's a strong name. It's a strong name. I'm not going to lie. But and the big rap battle they have is incredible, and they go back and forth several times. And Kongming has this idea. Well, what if you had like a rapper as a backup singer? And they kind of incorporate that into her music, and that's another big part of it. Another neat part of it is as they introduce characters, they start adding more lyrical parts to the ending theme and varying who sings them, which is really cool.
That's a neat idea. I love it when they do shit like that.
But Eiko is still, kind of trying to find herself, and she meets the street performer Nanami, and they kind of bounce off each other really well, and they have this great friendship playing songs with each other. But it turns out that Nanami kind of has a secret of her own.
Okay.
Nanami is part of this big rival group called Azalea.
That sounds like it sounds like an evil Power Rangers organization or something like that.
Well,
oh no.
So the big part of the plot here is that Eiko is looking to perform at this venue called Summer Sonia, which is like this big venue. It has this like expected attendance of like 300,000 people.
Whoa.
Yeah. So a lot of the people who are trying to get into this as well, but in order to qualify to get in there, everyone who wants to get in has to take part in this 100,000 likes project, where they have to make a post on social media, and that one individual post has to hit 100,000 likes. So Kongming is kind of strategizing how they can do that. And he looks at all of the other people who are in the running, and he's very quickly able to be like, yeah, all of these people are not threats. You don't have to worry about them. They already petered out with how many likes they got. So he kind of comes up with this plan to be like, okay, this is how we have to go about it. This is the exact date you're going to post something. And that all culminates in this big battle in the streets, this big musical fight between Eiko, Kabe Taijin, and against the three girls of Azalea.
Okay.
And it's this great set piece because it's in the middle of the big crossing in Shibuya. I'm sure you've seen photos of it.
Everyone has. Like, It's like, if you've seen stuff of Tokyo, you've probably seen that.
Like, if you've played The World Ends With You, you know what the Shibuya crossing is.
All games that are set in Tokyo.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
And all anime that are set in Tokyo, like, you at some point have seen this, like a top-down view where you see all the people crossing. I think in one of the shows that I reviewed in the past years, it was like this ugly CG crowd where two of the CG people, the algorithm was wrong and they were running into each other.
Oh no!
What was that? Ah, shit! Well, I remember that. That was also the Shibuya crossing. It's like one of the of two of the animation routines on two of the characters didn't work out, and they were just clashing against each other and bouncing off each other like for the entire scene, and someone didn't pay attention to that. It was amazing. And I forgot which show it was. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Oh man, oh no. But yeah, let's step back a little bit because Azalea's manager is this guy, Toshihiko Karasawa. Karasawa is a man with a method.
I mean, so is Kongming, I guess.
Yes, but Kongming is not out to, like, destroy people's lives the way Karasawa is.
Oh, okay.
The three girls of Azalea, they just wanted to... When they all started out, their backstory was they just wanted to play music. That's all. And they had their own band, the three of them, where they played, guitar, drums, and did some singing. And it was, it was what it was. And then they just wanted to do their own thing. And then Karasawa comes along and says, hey, I can make a name for you. But you have to do things my way. You have to sing. No. You have to sing the songs I want you to. You have to dress the way I want you to. And they sort of initially push back on that. But, you want to get famous, don't you? You want to make a name for yourself, don't you? And they agree to his terms at first. And the three of them are like, they're really kind of going through the motions. They're not actually playing the music. They're not actually singing. They're just like lip syncing. And it's like, that's not what they wanted to do. This sucks. So Karasawa's plan for the 100,000 likes project is we're going to have a surprise show in Shibuya. If we reach 100,000 likes, we're going to give away 1 million yen.
Well, if he can afford it.
And Nanami is like, I don't like the idea of buying our way to a win. But she can't, she doesn't vocalize that. She's like, all right, fine, we'll do it. Mm-hmm. But so the stage is set for this big showdown. And Eiko, Kabe Taijin, Kongming, and Kobayashi all appear on the scene before Azalea do. And they start singing one of Azalea's songs. That sets this big fight in motion in the middle of the Shibuya crossing, where each of them is on one side and the crowd is in the middle, and they're trying to fight for their attention back and forth.
Holy shit. Does that work, or does the music clash?
It definitely clashes at first, but this, leads up to, this is where everything comes to a big head, especially for the girls of Azalea, because they're like, they get to a point where it's like, this isn't what we want to do. And they say, screw it. And they start playing their own music. And Kurosawa is like, what are you actually doing? And it turns out, Kurosawa up to this point has been kind of played as kind of a jerk. But if we find out that, hey, he couldn't make it with his own music. So, he kind of wants to help. So in his weird roundabout way, he kind of wants to help, others get there where he couldn't. But he's not going about it in the right way. Yeah,
it's a projection thing. Also, like living his life through other people, kind of.
Yeah,
so it's not necessarily
living vicariously.
Yeah, exactly. It's not purely positive, but it's also not purely negative. So it's nice that they give the villains, quote unquote, a bit of death in this show. That's surprising. So I wasn't even aware there would be villains. So that's neat.
like Kurosawa is the big bad, quote unquote, they introduce in the second half of the show.
So that's the finale of this season, what you just described, I assume.
Yeah, they have this other rivalry with this other group called Jet Jacket at a smaller venue.
Ooh, that's also a cool name.
It is, yes. There's this kind of training arc with this DJ named Steve Kido. It's totally not a reference to what's his name? Steve Aoki? Yeah, it's definitely not a reference to him. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's if you want your musical battles, it's got them in spades. It's got a bunch of great music to go along with it. So it's intense. It's awesome. And I want there to be a second season like yesterday, dude.
I mean, you might get it. The chances are probably pretty good considering there's still source material and considering that the show was probably pretty successful. But yeah, was that the thing you liked most about the show? Like the musical performances or the character dynamics? Or what was the thing that was like keeping you consistently hooked? What was the main pull?
I think Aiko's arc kept me in there, as well as the whole the trying to strategize to get the 100,000 likes so that way she can go to Summer Sonia and try to make this name for herself.
I mean, it's a classic like underdog coming to fame story, like maybe
sure.
Like Rocky or something like that, right?
Yeah.
She's probably not the richest person. She comes probably from simple origins, I assume.
Oh yeah.
So that's a classic story. That's a classic story beat, and it seems like this show pulls us off really well with this very weird extra gimmick to it in the form of Kongming.
Yeah, I mean, Kongming is a great character too, because he's just sort of there being, and he speaks in this very flowery, very this is my strategy that I'm trying to present you. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't come across like haughty or overwrought. He's trying to present possibilities and ideas off of the other characters and be like, this is what I believe will get you where you want. But it's not like he's not open to suggestions and modifications of his strategies as well. So
he's not my way or the highway. He's like, hey,
right.
I think this will work for you. I have some experience with this, but I'm not above, taking your feelings or whatever into consideration, which seems like the opposite to what the villain's approach is that you mentioned earlier, who was like, yeah, we're doing this the way I see it to be the best way.
Mm.
That's nice that they're mirroring these kind of two manager instances of people against each other with these two sets of characters. So that's good. I kind of like when we have that, when we have two different facets of the same kind of character in the same show. It's like, okay, here this version of the character does it that way, and this version of the character does it that way, and you judge what works better and why, and so sounds good. Sounds really good.
One other thing I want to say is that the opening song for the show is a song called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which on its own, I'm probably thinking of the old folk-ish song, I guess. Mm. This is a cover of a Hungarian club song.
Which I'm pretty sure I have heard before. That song sounded so familiar. It was probably played in the hit lists over here in Europe. So it's this dude,
Jolie, I don't know. The song is called, I hope I don't butcher this too hard, Bulikirali, which translates to Party King.
Yeah, Perfect. Well, that makes sense. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which, it's great. Like, the first time I heard the song, I was like, dude, this is a jam. And then I read that, this is a cover of another song. And I was like, okay, so the original was a jam too. Sick. Awesome. It's also fun because the ending theme is also a cover of another club song. This Japanese club song called Kibun Jojo by this group Mihimaru GT, and this is the song where the first few episodes it's being sung just by Eiko. Then when Kabe Taijin comes in, he starts picking up some of it. Then when we meet Nanami, she starts picking up part of it, and it's so cool. It's really neat.
You mentioned that before, and I thought, that's a cool idea. That's especially when it comes to that one of the themes of the show being music, then that totally fits with the show. And in general, I mean, we both like it when they do quirky, fun stuff with the OP, being it, or the ED in this case, like changing things up or tying it into the weird story, or tying it into the story like they did in Beastars, for example. Mm-hmm. Or, revealing characters bit by bit in the OP, or changing it around. And if certain characters have a turning point in the show, not all shows do this, but there's some noteworthy ones out there who use the OPs and the EDs to do some storytelling in their own right, and it's great.
Man,
it's always fun.
Remember when Back Arrow did that and it was so cool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool stuff. I always appreciate it, and it's never have turned me on. I think the one where I clapped the most the first time was when JoJo's did it, because I mean it's become a thing for that series in general. All other OP was Stardust Crusaders the first OP that did it, or did the others did it? I think Stardust was the first one. I think
it was Stardust that did it first.
Yeah. I think the penultimate episode, I think it was, where Dio then just freezes the OP, and then they actually have the fist fight, the Muda battle, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's like in accordance with the song and everything, like in sync with the song. So yeah, it's more shows should do the OP like that, or do stuff like that with their OPs and EDs, and I'm glad that Ya Boy Kongming is one of those examples. That's really cool. Appreciate it.
You love to see it. Yeah, I was really surprised with this show. I went into thinking, I'm going to watch one episode of this and just like walk away from it. No, dude, this show is really fun. It was the real deal. I've really enjoyed it a lot.
Where can people watch it, John?
Can watch it on High Dive. And please give us a second season, please. This is really great, and I think if you're willing to give this weirdo idea a chance, that y'all will really enjoy it too.
And that is a wrap on the 132nd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter @AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody.